Tiro de esquina que tiene el Manchester United por la izquierda, es el minuto 1 del segundo tiempo. El centro de Rooney, la pelota del área, anticipa el Chicharito, no llega a llegar, Miñonet se pasa, ¡gol!
It's great to have you back, so many of you, and even more new faces. Just a quick introduction on the Hispanic Sports Marketing Forum. We're doing this in partnership with ACM Group, which is a cultural marketing agency based in Charlotte. We've really assembled a who is who of experts, buyers, and sellers of Hispanic sports media. And we would not have been able to do it without ACM Group.
My name is Jaime Cardenas, and I'm the CEO and founder of ACM Group, which is a cultural marketing agency that specializes on helping brands to connect with soccer fans and with Hispanic fans. However, what soccer brings to the table is that it has an extra dimension for the Hispanic market. So there are properties like Liga MX, LFP, which is I think is an interesting case there, but still there's a big difference in interest between them and EPL. So I think that the fact that EPL has been strategically partnering with big networks like Fox Soccer in the past and NBC now has helped them to get a big following in the US. Our main takeaway is that, in our opinion, soccer should be a total market strategy, not just a planning strategy.
You know, there are lots of sporting passion points that our consumer is interested in, whether it be basketball, baseball, boxing, motorsports, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. And if you drill down within that, this is where I think soccer really is kind of the best example. Three most important sports for Hispanics are football, and club sport.
You're absolutely correct. The days of 90 minutes, here comes the soccer game, we'll see you next week, those are long gone. So, football, by all means, is my passion point to connect, but we are not blind to the fact that sports such as football, boxing, baseball, NBA are relevant. And because they're relevant, we cover them. So I think that we need to see on our close for 5 years. I was a CBS Sports for 10 years prior to that. The change of content, the ability for us to really hone in and provide to our audience not just Mexican soccer, but really NBA highlights, NFL, whatever not, exists today. And we exist because the biggest market test that we have to look for is our consumer, and our consumer is the demand for that. So we lead with soccer, we emphasize soccer, but we're definitely open and providing content across all.
Absolutely, I actually agree with Jose. Undeniably, soccer is number one. I mean, you look week in and week out. You know, it's not only delivering tens of thousands of impressions, but millions of impressions in terms of soccer. But nonetheless, I mean, we have to look at a particular study. We looked at Hispanic media. We had a Latino mindset study. And what Latinos basically are saying to us is we need differentiation from limited options. And when they say options, there's more options in terms of content as well, sports content.
With your point, Juan, we're heavy on soccer, right? A lot of European soccer for us. I think you guys saw the stats from Jaime that talked about the viewership of that Hispanic consumer with European soccer, right? So we do have an investment in English soccer in particular, in specific clubs that we know attract that consumer and attract the eyeballs and put them on TV, right? We do activate heavily in boxing as well.
We evolved into having AT&T as a whole commit to own soccer, if you will, and we added in 2009 MLS and US Soccer to the portfolio. And what we're doing more and more is finding where the cross-pollination is. So everything from our research on site to our advertising. In 2010, for the World Cup, we had the pleasure of creating a spot that features the Mexican national team, but running it on ABC in Spanish with subtitles for the first time. So I think as we become more sophisticated in understanding that ultimately the Hispanic population is divided into segments. So I think for us anyway, soccer sort of helped us get there, and we're now starting to see it across the entire sponsorship portfolio.
You know, for us, I think back to 2006 when we crossed over our flagship brand, the trademark football. We crossed it over for general market consumption and actually carried it inside of the USA Today, which I bring back that example because it was probably way too early. We all know timing is everything with some of these properties for our business, but it wasn't too early for the consumer. And recently, I still would get calls in the office, and our team would say, you know, people are calling and asking for that English version of Football Mundial. And so, so the opportunity to engage that consumer today, because of our the evolution of digital, obviously, the expansion of all the multiple screens that you can consume this great content on, to now move away from just talking about language and just really looking at, you know, what is subject matter, right? The subject matter of soccer. And if you think of language as tactical, the opportunity to reach that consumer now in Spanish and English is absolutely huge.
Teams, athletes, sports franchises, and even the sports brands, you know, the Nikes and the Adidas and everybody, have had to become major content providers. So, which is another interesting point. The NBA recently passed 1 billion viewers on their YouTube channel, and the MLB during the playoffs, there was more than 250,000 page views on that precise day. So there's a lot of activity, digitally speaking. Do we actually need to connect with Hispanics sports audience digitally? I mean, is there really a need for that? So let's go, I mean, in order, if you like, yes or no, and a Twitter size response, 140 characters or less.
Everybody's looking this way, right? I'm sorry. The answer is absolutely. I mean, you know, as you referenced, Joel, just the propensity of the Hispanic community to over-index against every digital metric that you see out there means that if you're not involved, you're missing a huge opportunity.
For us, multiple screens are not just mobile phones, but we also utilize the tablet as one of those mobile devices. You know, the mobile phone and the tablet are the two major ways that people are consuming, especially the Hispanic community consuming content, and they are early adopters. So typically when you want to try something new or try a new custom opportunity, the Hispanic audience is the first one that will pick it up.
Talk about soccer. I mean, people want to watch the game. They're checking online the stats. They want to know what's going on. Why is Messi winning that shoe? I mean, why is Ronaldo winning this? They want to know everything. What tweets are happening. I mean, we're very fortunate. I mean, we're at soccer.com. We sell soccer shoes, boots, and jerseys. But the reality is that we need to be online because not only people go to us to make a transaction on our site, but also people go online because they want to know what's going on. What are the blogs? What people are talking about display years? It's like, once again, what they're wearing, you know, and definitely about it.
I think any content today produced should be conceptualized as a multimedia product. So it's not just sports. In general, I would say that the demand is there to consume it on different platforms at different times or simultaneously. And that translates, by the way, into advertising, which is something that Yumi has already done by focusing on serving that, you know, consumer on multiple platforms seamlessly, which is also the next evolution.
And just lastly, to echo what everyone has already said, but I also think that as marketers, we've had to change the way that we approach our fans and potential fans. And the reality of it is that mobile and digital, I mean, you know, we know consumers want their information when they want it, and they're either going to consume it through the first, second, or third screen. So as marketers, we have to stay ahead of that.
I think it's a good decision to have this talk right now after talking about going digital, because I'm maybe one of the first generations that is digital native. The funny thing is that when I try to explain to people that I made a career out of having a blog, they don't really understand, mostly my parents. So when I try to explain why that is important, it's because blogs give you a big audience for whatever your passion is. Most people that start a blog don't start because they think they can make a career out of it, but because they want a voice, they want to express themselves. In my case, I talk about soccer jerseys, which might not seem like the most important topic in the world, but clearly there's an audience for it.
While some of you are leveraging the same properties, the Spanglish is part of my game when I play soccer, that you use for the general market, what factors play in that decision?
What we wanted to achieve is really to have one overall platform that will allow us to connect through all the touchpoints with the consumer, and soccer was going to give us that. So we didn't change the approach, we didn't change to go to another sport. I guess in all reality, one of the factors was we didn't have the millions of dollars to do baseball for general market and soccer for Hispanics. So we decided and we find that soccer was that key sport, or that overall platform that would connect with both. And but the general market, we just talk a little different specifically today, and we leverage when the US soccer games happen, and more we leverage it as well with the MLS.
Truthfully, and it's very open, if you look at any of the history of Delta Airlines, we are a Southern company 90 years plus, and only in the last 2 years we actually made a vice president for Latin America, and we decided to make our headquarters in Sao Paulo. But that was only 3 years ago. So that's when really we started putting focus on our services to Latin. So for my position was only created about, it's going to be 2 years in December. So for us, it's the other way around. For us, we started as a general, how do we become part of the community? And now that we have that exposure, how are we going to go to that niche and be known in the Latin community that we serve as the Latin, all of Latin America. So for us, it's dangerous.
Yeah, well, in our case, obviously, we were aiming to appeal to the Hispanic consumer audience, specifically Mexican consumer. And this is all based in consumer understanding. And you believe everything we do is really rooted in research and in consumer insights. And soccer, obviously, is, if not the most relevant platform among Hispanic consumers in the sports space. So we wanted to develop a program that was specifically targeting this consumer.
Richard, your position is different. You need to engage sponsors to Alianza Football. How do you do that?
A lot of praying. It's hard. I mean, I've been selling this for 10 years, and there's a lot of you in this room know grassroots is hard. We exist in a media business, and certainly a lot of the big deals at the top level are media driven. So, but on the same hand, it's cliche to say, and I think most Hispanic marketers acknowledge that to be successful, you have to be local. And where that local